Good evening, good morning, YouTube salutations, wherever you're at. So I wanted to make a video today about Harold Lamb and kind of use this as a bit of announcement. Another channel and I, whose name, the other channel is Kwiatoslav, I will put a link to some of his videos in the description and I will tag him. Please go check him out. He has a really great channel. He talks about a lot of older historical fiction, a lot of great books. He got a video about Shogun, and I've seen him talk about some other really great authors from that era. So please go check him out. So we're going to do a bit of a buddy read on Harold Lamb. So I thought I'd go and do like a quick author profile of him. And then, of course, if anybody wants to join, they're more than welcome to. I'll put some covers of his books right here. Because I don't, the only hard copy of his book I own is Tamerlane, which is a biography of him. So at least for me, in my experience, that was the first book of his I ever read. I discovered it a couple of years ago, looking up biographies for Tamerlane, or Timur, as he's sometimes referred to. Harold Lamb was an author and a writer in the early 1900s, and he wrote for a lot of pulp magazines for a long time, primarily in Adventures, which was a very well-known pulp magazine. According to what I read and some research I did, he worked for that magazine for 19 years. I'll go ahead and read, this is his Goodreads description. I'll go ahead and read them real quick. It says, Harold Lamb was an American historian, screenwriter, and short story writer and novelist. Born in Alpine, New Jersey, he attended Columbia University, where his interest in the peoples and history of Asia began. Lamb built a career with his writing from an early age. He got his start in the pulp magazines, quickly moved to the prestigious Adventure magazine, his primary fiction outlet for 19 years. In 1927, he wrote a biography of Genghis Khan, and following its success, turned more and more to writing nonfiction, penning numerous biographies and popular history books until his death in 1962. It says the success of Lamb's two-volume history of the Crusades led to the discovery by Cecil B. DeMille, who employed Lamb as technical advisor on a related movie, The Crusades, and used him as a screenwriter in many other DeMille movies thereafter. Lamb spoke French, Latin, Persian, and Arabic, and by his own account, a smattering of Manchu Tartar. Harold Lamb has had quite an interesting career, and something else he's kind of known for is that Robert E. Howard is on record saying that was one of his favorite authors, at least from what I found. I guess I can't confirm that, but as far as from what I read, at least, Robert E. Howard cited him as one of his favorite authors, which actually makes a lot of sense with the time frame. And obviously, Robert E. Howard would have been reading those pulp magazines at the time. And I'll actually put an article I found in the description, too, that compares both Robert E. Howard and Harold Lamb. But Harold Lamb is largely known for writing a whole bunch of historical fiction, and he wrote in other genres too. He's an incredibly prolific writer. So at least for me and Kwiatoslav's buddy read, which we plan to read some Robert E. Howard as well, and we're going to alternate. I'll get a little more into that at the end of the video if anyone's interested. But anyway, Harold Lamb wrote a whole bunch of historical fiction, wrote in other genres, and then eventually would move on to nonfiction later in his career, which, like I said, that's how I discovered him, was through his nonfiction books, which is Tamerlane. But I also own a collection of his, of novellas, that is incredibly cheap on Amazon for Kindle. It's like 99 cents. It's like 700 pages of all kinds of novellas that he wrote. So that's the other material of Harold Lamb I've read. So me and Kwiatoslav plan to read from Swords of the West. I'll put the cover of it right here, which is just a collection of short stories of his, but there's like 5 volumes of these. There's Swords of the East, Swords of the Sea, I think is the other one is called. There's a whole bunch of them. There's this, I think it's this Crusade series, and it's like Warriors of the Steppe, but there's just all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, he has all these nonfiction books. Some of his nonfiction would probably be considered dated by today's standards, because he kind of uses some methods that maybe can be considered a little unusual now, but you could do a lot worse than start with Harold Lamb. I mean, it's just an interesting look to go back and, read these influential writers and kind of see where a lot of the stuff began. Even if his nonfiction style might be a little bit dated, I think there's still a lot of value. You can still learn a great deal from it, and there's a lot to learn from it. And he's influenced other authors as well. I mean, I saw something about Gardner Fox. I think it's obvious he's influenced Con Ingleton, who wrote an entire Genghis Khan series. And then there's an old quote about George R. R. Martin, I think, talking about Harold Lamb, too. So the point is he's been incredibly influential. And from what I've read of him, I really enjoy him quite a bit. So I'm looking forward to reading some more of his work. right now the plan for Kitislav and I is to read the first 3 stories of Swords of the West, which is like a total of like 70 pages maybe. And we're going to try to do it. We're going to aim for 2-week intervals, but it might end up being 3, give or take, because we both have other obligations and life stuff. And of course, I got my own reading projects going on between Historathon and then my Sharp series reread. And eventually I'm just going to read all the Cornwell books again, so is the idea at least. But I think this will be a lot of fun. And reading short stories is just kind of good for, creativity purposes. I've been wanting to read some more short stories anyway. Actually, I was reading some Clark Ashton Smith just recently. So I'm trying to read short stories more often because I try to write short stories myself. So it's just a good creative endeavor to read short stories that helps, with some inspiration and my own creativity. So I definitely, I'm looking forward to this. It's not a huge commitment of reading. So I think it should not be a problem. But again, feel free to join us if you want. You can read, leave comments in the videos. I think that'd be great. And please go check out his channel. He seems like a really nice guy. He talks about a lot of interesting stuff. So please make him feel welcome to the BookTube community. I think that would be really great. And again, he seems like a really nice fellow. So again, thank you, Kitislav, for doing the buddy read with me. And I think this will be a lot of fun. So definitely, guys, check it out if you're interested. Yeah, he's got a lot. I'm telling you, Harold Lamb has a ton of stuff to read. So again, I think this will be a really, really interesting thing to do. And again, and we're going to kind of go back and forth as the plan, in these couple-week intervals of, reading some stories from Harold Lamb and read some stories from Robert E. Howard. So, maybe make some comparisons because they kind of have, like I said, they're kind of linked together. So I think that'll be a pretty fun thing to do. So anyway, that's all for today, YouTube. Good night, good day, wherever you're at.